Have you ever felt that tingling, pins and needles sensation in your feet that just won't go away? You know, that uncomfortable numbness that makes you wonder if your foot is still attached to your body. Well, what if I told you that some of the vegetables sitting in your refrigerator right now could actually be making this problem worse? I know, we're always told to eat our vegetables, and for good reason. But here's the thing that most people don't realize. Not all vegetables are created equal, especially when it comes to nerve health and circulation. Some seemingly innocent vegetables can actually interfere with your body's ability to heal damaged nerves and maintain proper blood flow to your extremities. Before we dive in, I want to be crystal clear. I'm not telling you to throw out all your vegetables and live on pizza. What I'm sharing today is backed by scientific research about how certain compounds in specific vegetables can potentially worsen existing nerve problems. This information could be the missing piece of the puzzle if you've been struggling with persistent foot numbness. So stick around, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the 3 vegetables that could be secretly sabotaging your nerve health, explain exactly why they're problematic, and most importantly, give you some practical alternatives that can actually support your recovery. And hey, if this information helps you or someone you know, smash that like button and subscribe for more health insights that your doctor might not tell you about. Let's start with number 1, tomatoes. Yes, you heard that right. Those beautiful juicy tomatoes that we put in our salads, sandwiches, and pasta sauces could be working against your nerve health. Here's what's happening. Tomatoes belong to a family of plants called nightshades, and they contain compounds called glycoalkaloids, particularly solanine and tomatine. Now, for most people, these compounds aren't a problem. But if you're already dealing with inflammation-related nerve damage, which is often the root cause of foot numbness, these alkaloids can actually ramp up your body's inflammatory response. Think of inflammation like a fire in your body. When your nerves are already inflamed and struggling to function properly, eating foods that fan those flames is like pouring gasoline on a fire. The glycoalkaloids in tomatoes can trigger the release of inflammatory cytokines, which are basically your body's alarm signals that something is wrong. When these signals are constantly firing, they prevent your nerves from healing and can actually make the numbness worse. But here's where it gets really interesting and frustrating. Tomatoes also contain lectins, which are proteins that can interfere with your gut health. Your gut health is directly connected to your nerve health through something called the gut-brain axis. When your digestive system is compromised, it can't properly absorb the nutrients your nerves need to repair themselves, like B vitamins, magnesium, and omega-3 fatty acids. Studies have shown that people with autoimmune conditions, which often involve nerve inflammation, frequently see improvements when they eliminate nightshades from their diet for several weeks. One study published in the Journal of Nutritional Medicine found that 70% of participants with inflammatory conditions experienced reduced symptoms after removing nightshades. Now, I'm not saying tomatoes are evil. They're packed with lycopene and other beneficial compounds. But if you're dealing with persistent foot numbness and you're eating tomatoes daily, it might be worth eliminating them for 4 to 6 weeks to see if your symptoms improve. Number 2 might surprise you even more: white potatoes. I can already hear some of you saying, but potatoes are a whole food. And you're right, they are. But when it comes to nerve health, white potatoes can be particularly problematic for several reasons. First, let's talk about blood sugar. White potatoes have a glycemic index of around 85, which means they cause your blood sugar to spike rapidly after eating them. This might not seem directly related to foot numbness, but here's the connection. When your blood sugar spikes repeatedly, it leads to a process called glycation, where sugar molecules literally stick to your nerve fibers and damage them. This is why diabetics often develop peripheral neuropathy, the medical term for nerve damage in the hands and feet. But here's what most people don't realize. You don't have to be diabetic to experience nerve damage from blood sugar spikes. Even people with normal blood sugar can develop what's called pre-diabetic neuropathy from years of blood sugar fluctuations. The problem with white potatoes is that they're often eaten in large quantities and frequently paired with other high glycemic foods. Think about it: French fries, mashed potatoes with gravy, potato chips. These combinations create massive blood sugar spikes that your pancreas struggles to manage. But there's another issue with potatoes that's specific to nerve health. They're also nightshades, which means they contain the same inflammatory alkaloids we talked about with tomatoes. So you're getting a double hit: blood sugar spikes, and inflammatory compounds. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that people who consumed high glycemic foods regularly had significantly higher levels of inflammatory markers in their blood. Another study found that participants who replaced high glycemic vegetables like white potatoes with low glycemic alternatives saw improvements in nerve conduction studies within just 12 weeks. The solution isn't to avoid all potatoes forever. Sweet potatoes, for example, have a much lower glycemic index and are packed with nerve-supporting nutrients like beta-carotene and potassium. Purple potatoes contain anthocyanins, which are powerful anti-inflammatory compounds. The key is choosing the right types and preparing them in ways that minimize blood sugar impact. And number 3, corn. Now, technically corn is a grain, but most people think of it as a vegetable, and it's often found in the vegetable section of the grocery store. So let's include it in our discussion. Corn presents a unique challenge for people with nerve problems because it's essentially a sugar delivery system disguised as a vegetable. Modern corn has been bred to be incredibly sweet, much sweeter than the corn our ancestors ate. A single ear of corn contains about 6 to 8 grams of sugar, and when you factor in that most people don't stop at one ear, you're looking at a significant sugar load. Just like with white potatoes, this sugar content causes rapid blood sugar spikes that can damage nerve fibers through glycation. But corn has additional problems that make it particularly troublesome for nerve health. First, corn is one of the most common genetically modified crops in the world. While the jury is still out on the long-term health effects of GMOs, some research suggests that genetically modified foods may trigger inflammatory responses in sensitive individuals. If your nerves are already inflamed, adding more inflammatory triggers to your diet is counterproductive. Second, corn is incredibly difficult to digest properly. Have you ever noticed corn kernels in your stool even after thorough chewing? That's because corn contains a tough outer hull made of cellulose that human digestive enzymes can't break down effectively. When food isn't properly digested, it can ferment in your gut, leading to inflammation and poor nutrient absorption. Third, corn is high in omega-6 fatty acids and low in omega-3s. While omega-6 fatty acids aren't inherently bad, the modern Western diet contains far too many omega-6s relative to omega-3s. This imbalance promotes inflammation throughout the body, including in nerve tissues. A study published in the Journal of Inflammation found that people who consumed high amounts of omega-6 fatty acids had significantly higher levels of inflammatory markers and were more likely to experience peripheral neuropathy symptoms. The researchers noted that reducing omega-6 intake while increasing omega-3 consumption led to measurable improvements in nerve function. But perhaps most importantly, corn often displaces more nutritious vegetables from your plate. Instead of getting nerve-supporting nutrients like folate, B vitamins, and magnesium from leafy greens or colorful vegetables, you're filling up on a high-sugar, low-nutrient food that actively works against your nerve health. So, there you have it. The 3 vegetables that could be secretly worsening your foot numbness. Tomatoes with their inflammatory alkaloids, white potatoes with their blood sugar spiking effects, and corn with its hidden sugar content and poor digestibility. Now, I want to emphasize something important. This doesn't mean these foods are inherently evil or that you can never eat them again. What I'm suggesting is that if you're currently struggling with persistent foot numbness, eliminating these 3 vegetables for 4 to 6 weeks could give your nerves the break they need to start healing. Instead, focus on nerve-supporting vegetables like leafy greens, rich in B vitamins, colorful bell peppers packed with vitamin C, and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli that support detoxification. These foods provide the nutrients your nerves need to repair themselves without the inflammatory compounds that could be holding back your recovery. Remember, healing takes time, and everyone's body is different. What works for one person might not work for another, but the science behind avoiding these 3 vegetables for people with nerve issues is solid. If you found this information helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps more people discover this content. And if you're serious about improving your nerve health naturally, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because I share science-based health insights like this every week. Drop a comment below and let me know. Have you noticed a connection between certain foods and your nerve symptoms? I read every comment and love hearing about your experiences. And if you know someone who's struggling with numbness or tingling in their feet, share this video with them. Sometimes the solution is simpler than we think. It might just be sitting in their refrigerator. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll talk about the top 5 foods that can actually help heal damaged nerves naturally. Until then, take care of those feet.